So they asked me to do the introduction, and you've already had some introduction about what it is. I'm supposed to tell you what Pecha Kucha means, and I have no idea. I know that I thought it was somewhere in Peru, but apparently it's fast-moving slides. You're going to get a mini death by PowerPoint. I've got some PowerPoint stuff to show you. It's only a few slides, and it only helps prompt me in my way through some of the work that I've done. I've been introduced as the chair of Creative Somerset, but I like to put myself up as the acting chair because I was part of a group that found itself setting up Creative Somerset as a legacy project from an Arts Council funding thing. It's big, and I'll touch a little bit upon it when I get to that point. But I thought I might throw that up there because I've never known how to phonetically pronounce words in that way. Does anybody know what that all means? And I thought I'd look at the words themselves, collaborate, even though we kind of know what they mean. I wanted a literal meaning. So the first port of call to go, I guess, is Wikipedia. And I didn't realise, that is a collaboration. Wikipedia is open source. So if you find something wrong in Wikipedia, you can actually apply to put it right. So I found that quite fascinating. I often go in there and use it, but I thought I'd sort of read a little bit about it. But it was kind of, that much explanation about one word. So I went to the Oxford English Dictionary. It was a lot easier. And just in case you wanted some confirmation of what it means, there are two meanings to collaboration. The first one is work jointly on an activity or project. That will work, won't it? The second one was a little bit more sinister. Cooperate traitorously with an enemy. And I thought that's probably not what we're about. But I'd actually found over my I'd say working life, I've never actually earned any money out of the arts. I've done it because I believe in it, because I'm actually very passionate about what the arts can do. You might be able to hear from my accent, I'm not from Somerset, I'm from London. And when I moved here when I was 23 to live by the sea, I thought I wanted to help whatever was happening in the area. And I became very involved with the theatre in Minehead. And I'll explain a little bit about that too. Innovate was a little less interesting. It says to make changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas or products. Well, all of that really does make sense. I wanted to take you a little bit through my work. I've put those kind of things, those two things together. Does anybody know Minehead at all? Do you know? No, okay. Well, the slide on the left is our theatre. That is the theatre that I got involved with in 1981. And at the time, we used to lease, we used to borrow the theatre for performances from a guy who actually bought the theatre. It's an old 1200 seaside Deco. 1934 it was built. He transformed it in 1978 to be a first floor venue. So in other words, we've got the dress circle. So if you can imagine, there was a stage built above what was the old 700-seat auditorium, the stalls. That was turned into a supermarket, and we ended up with the top floor. In the mid-90s, we took it on. We took it on with a 100-year lease. We had to pay about a commercial rate for about 10 years. So this is relevant to what the Brewhouse are now sort of looking at doing, and we've had some input into what the Brewhouse have been doing, and hopefully there is some, we know that there is a desire for that to be reopened in April. But we run entirely on volunteers. The place has no revenue income, it's never had any lottery funding, we've never had any Arts Council support, but we've relied totally on the fact that we we engender the local population to come and help us. So we have about 200 volunteers that help just operate that theatre. And as I say, I've been involved since 1981. We currently put about 25,000 people through the doors. We have about 200 of those volunteers, and I currently chair the board. So it's actually quite a success story. What you're looking at there is a project that I was privileged to be asked to lead about 15 years ago, which is the new box office and lift. It was done as a DDA project. The Disabled Discrimination Act said we had to be fully accessible. We wanted it to be more than that, and that's exactly what we've done. That's about £250,000 that we raised from our own resources. So we finished that this year. So I think you'll agree it's quite pretty. That's showing the sort of nice LED lights up the side, and it takes us into the first floor where we have a bar and things work quite well. The other organisation that you see to the left, that is something which kind of happened. It was a sort of a bit of an innovation. But it happened because of the National Lottery. Before the National Lottery, I think funding was drawn down in a range of ways. But the government decided that the National Lottery would be a great way to bring funding for both sport and arts companies. So we, at the Regal, decided we wanted to apply for some of this funding, and the first thing we did was to contact the Arts Council who were handling the National Lottery funding then, and still are. And they said, well, who are you working with? What is your strategic plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? We had no idea. So we got together with a group of other people. We got together with the colleges, the schools, the providers for other arts and culture, and we set up a network. And that West Somerset Arts Network became ArtLife. ArtLife is now the West Somerset Arts Consortium. It was conceived in the late 90s. It's been going since 2000. And what we eventually did, they appointed me as chair in my absence. I missed a meeting and suddenly found that I was chair of the organisation. I'm sure some of you have had that scenario. And what I was really keen to ensure is that we acted as a partner to the local authority, i.e. West Somerset Council, and not as a servant. And that was quite innovative at the time, because we wanted the partnership of the local authority, but we didn't want their interference. And that has had quite a significant effect on the way we carried out the operation of the company. We've always had paid operatives to actually facilitate and enable the company to go forward, and that still happens, and we still get funding. So I think there's only one other local authority in the country, and I believe that's the Wigan Leisure and Culture Trust, that operate on that basis. Most other local authorities had development arts officers, and to my knowledge in Somerset, there's only South Somerset that continue to employ an arts development officer. The rest of all, sadly, left the service. So I wanted to sort of leave you with that message. Sometimes, collaboration just happens. Sometimes you can make it happen, and sometimes innovation comes from good collaboration. Collaboration is not something that you can force upon others. It's not something that you do because you want to get more funding. You do it because there's a sort of a natural need to collaborate with others. And somebody said to me the other day, 1 and 1 makes 3. Well, that's exactly what happened with ArtLife. So it still continues to deliver in a very effective way today. In fact, we're working now, and this might not please some of you, but we're working with EDF. We're working with their Impact Mitigation Fund to even though there is still some discussion as to when the project of the power station will actually begin. We've been working for years with the area of outstanding natural beauty of Quantock Hills and Exmoor National Park to try to help tourism to the areas. we're now working with EDF to try to mitigate the impact, and that's sort of helping us with the Coleridge Way project and other such projects. So these things have just kind of happened over the years, but we've been in the right place because of that partnership, because of that collaboration, and our openness to innovate. This happened as well. Well, it hasn't quite happened. This is the old hospital which sits directly opposite our theatre. It is it's a Grade 2 listed building. It is something that has been in Minehead obviously since the late 19th century and has recently been offered for sale by the National Health Service because we were lucky to have a £27 million new hospital built just down the road. So I am now part of a development trust to try and buy this place. I can't believe I'm telling you this, but these things just happen sometimes, don't they? The opportunities seem too good to be true. The fact that it is directly opposite the theatre is giving us a real collaborative project opportunity to really reshape the whole centre and cultural offer of Minehead. So I kind of, like you do say, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. We are now right down the process of negotiating quite heavily with NHS Property Services Division. We are going through their development programme in order they have an estates code where they have to go through a whole process to release these old buildings. If we have to work in partnership and collaborate with a developer, we will do, but that will be a project that we think is worth saving. And the architects tell us it's the spaces between the buildings that can make the buildings work. So again, there's collaboration there, and we're looking at a whole range of other providers that can come in with us. So we're quite excited about that, but this is kind of a long-term project that we're just entering into. The next, I'm kind of probably coming up to the end of my time, aren't I? So I'm sort of looking at my guiders over there. The next couple of slides I wanted to show you were a little bit of fun. They were sort of something, this is something from my youth, and when I was asked to do this, I thought, collaboration, innovation, how does this actually, how could it work? Anybody know that album cover? Yeah, very well. I thought you were Jamie. I happened across a BBC4 programme a couple of weeks ago, and it showed Mike Oldfield. He was 19 when he approached a number of record companies to take him on. I put it next to that other slide. Anybody tell me why? Yeah. Did you see that programme? Richard Branson actually said, had it not have been for Mike Oldfield and the gamble that he took when Mike Oldfield came through the door and said, have a listen to this, I think Richard Branson was famously quoted as saying, there's no lyrics, but it sold millions, and according to Richard Branson, helped him set up the Virgin organisation. And obviously, look where that went. I quite like that. It was sort of a nice ring. So Richard Branson's own words. He actually, I think he gave him his Bentley, didn't he, to perform the whole thing live at the South Bank Centre some years later. But it's just a fantastic story. And I love that one too. That's 50 years old. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I love the thought that Quentin Blake, Sir Quentin Blake, collaborates on these projects. My kids loved the stories and they loved watching the cartoons as well. So I just wanted to throw those out there as a little bit of fun for people to sort of think about, that it's not only just stark business reasons that we're collaborating, but sometimes those things just happen. And the last slide is open. I like the thought, you know, if you're open to these opportunities, then sometimes things that you don't expect to happen will happen. They just kind of present themselves, and it's whether you're then open enough. And I think, Richard, you mentioned about trust. Sometimes trusting in your colleagues around you, having that tolerance and moving forward in that very open way can take you to some surprising places. So I do commend it. Thank you.